Hello and welcome back to the channel and another CC Design Contest playthrough, and in this one we're going to look at 5 Points Ridge by Alan Eastwood. Now Alan's put a number of courses for different contests, and so I played a few of them before and there's lots to like, particularly in environment creation. Now just looking here at the notes, red and white manipulated teas, we'll go with white but we'll just kind of check them as we go, as with other courses that have gone for this. No OB or water, cool. 15th par 5 less than 550. And then loosely based on Pinehurst number 10, which has a bit more undulation than the others. Okay, and there's like a big ridge that works off from which it gets its name. Okay, so straight away going to leap in and look at pot as a whole, and as you can see, we've got this ridge, kind of Mammoth Dunes-esque, except not quite as big. But yeah, you can certainly see the Pinehurst sort of style, and then the ridge it works in. So we're in Boreal, judging by the texture burning. We have a clubhouse made of those ticket buildings are great for this. They look really good. Lovely. We've got some bunkers with little bits of planting in. We've got some waste bunkers as expected. I have some thoughts on the waste bunkers, which we will pause with for the moment. Just looking out. Yeah, you can see the elevation change and kind of we work around. Oh, there's another. The halfway house is very similar to the clubhouse. And yeah, as you can see from the sky, we work around that. It does look like shadows may be an issue. Gone with really low lighting on this sort of course can be so tough because the pines are such a big issue. Like they're such a big thing. You either have to use a lot of waste area and scrub planting to free up that space, or be really careful with your lighting. Now, if I remember rightly, this was put on as one of like the plat qualifiers for one of the majors for the Masters major. And that was an issue because the lighting was changed. It just gives you fewer options with that. But kind of if you're going to go with the low lighting, what can you do? It does look like you've gone with mostly cross lighting for this, which makes a load of sense. Now, the waste bunkers, I did say I was going to have a comment. So a lot of these shapes, and this is kind of how I did bunkers, waste bunkers when I started, they look kind of formal. And you kind of want them looking even more ragged than this and a bit more random than they are. And it's really hard to get that right. The best person to look at is RJ Wills, pretty much as ever. If you go back to the last game or the game before, can't remember which, and look at Blue River Dunes, which is Pine Valley version, you get a really good idea of how the natural sorts of waste areas look. This one looks good. I like that this looks a bit more random and it bleeds between the two holes. Some of the others maybe look a little bit stylized and formal, but that's a minor critique, and you kind of notice it more from the air, but it's really hard to get those right. Anyway, I'm gonna leap down, go on to the first tee. Okay, so first and 10th presumably set off either side. So this one, there's not much difference in terms of the red and white tees on this one. They might as well be in the same place. Maybe a slight angle difference, but very minimal. We're looking at like there to there most. The fairway, I think in front of the tee you can lower a little bit more so we can see more of that waste planting. If actually I'm looking like this bit of land here, that if you just lowered that, that would free up a lot more of this view that you're trying to create, which looks really good when you zoom out and look over it. It would be really nice to see that from the tee. Now we've got this bunker on this side. It then kind of rolls down towards that bunker. We kind of got a side on green, which means it doesn't really matter which way we go anyway. So it's just, I guess, about distance on approach. If I bail out too far this way, I've really got to hook a shot around the trees, which maybe feels a touch penal to this pin. I can always play for the middle of the green. I guess you'd have to hit a pretty bad drive to end up there. I haven't really looked at the elevation there, but we'll play just in front of the bunker. I think I probably would have just angled the green a little bit more. Kind of mentioned it on the Vermilion playthrough, which will have been published by this point, but if you angle the greens 90 degrees, it doesn't really give you any benefit of whether I go this way or this way because I'm getting the same angle regardless. I kind of like the little mound here. I'm just trying to work out how it's working. And green sculpting has been something that I've pointed out, and like angles, and I'm not sure if I'd have done the It's Great playthrough before you release this. Might not have released it until then. Have we gone with light rough? Don't think you've gone with light rough, which is a bold call. We'll see how it plays. Okay, elevation is going to... Anyway, we're digressing. I'm okay with this pin. I would have probably softened the sideways slope it's on just a touch. Just because I think your main thing you're asking me to carry is this little false area, which I don't really think you need. I don't know why, if you're getting over the bunker, I think just reward people. Otherwise, getting over the false front is really the thing, and it just means the bunker is window dressing. I like the green site. And a raised, but sort of a bit of an amphitheatre. It's cool. Always like this sort of thing. Ah, that's a really bad swing. And the planting looks good, as expected. Right. Yeah, this pin, I don't really know why the green is sloping the way it is, because it's sloping this way, as you can see, and then kind of going hard this way. And then there's a false front here, so like it's all going round and down. Like this bit doesn't make sense along with here, I would say. It just feels a bit of a kind of an artificial way to protect par, particularly on a CC course where we want to be doing everything possible. And this is going to fly off somewhere. Fine. Put myself in an awful position. And yeah, 1 foot up to the pin from... We're on pretty slopey greens, which is cool. I'm all for those. Hey, there's a par out of nowhere. So yeah, all for slopey greens with interest and forgiveness built in. When you can't really generate the angle, and there's that little false front, and there's a lot of slope on the green, it's quite. And there was a little pimple of sorts in the middle. I think there's a lot going on, and maybe you just want to simplify that a touch. Okie doke, really wide fairway. This side much more protected than this side. That side leads to us going over the bunker. That side probably doesn't. It can be really tricky with uphill greens, but I still think you need to offer that ground game approach in at the front, which this slope is kind of, and the length of hole is either you're reaching this and you're landing it and holding it, or you're just not. And it kind of makes it a bit binary as to whether you go for it or don't. Like, it's very all or nothing. We can get the nothing. Oh, there is light rough. I take it back. The comment on the first hole. It just, I would probably be changing the light rough texture color because it's impossible to tell. They might all be the same texture set. But yeah, I'd change. Nah. I'm trying to think, because Pinehurst doesn't have a first cut on Pinehurst number 2, but that's number 2. You're not basing it off that. I probably would change the colour. I could get a reason why you'd gone with the same colour to make it all look one tone. So even if I was going for this, there's literally no chance I'm landing it here and rolling up. And if I am, then it's pure fluke because it's taking a very soft bounce and it might just drop over. You can't really predict that. So if I'm not going for it, which I'm not, in this case, choke down landing area. We've got an option of laying in front of the bunker for a slightly better angle. Green is very crowned, which again I know is a Pinehurst thing. Pinehurst and CC is a challenging pairing to have gone for. Because what most people know about Pinehurst is the saucer greens on number 2. And you're going to struggle making those accessible for CC. Okay, so let's have a look at this pin and where we can leave it. If we go long, we've got a very steep downhill putt. Now, obviously, this hole is on a big back to front slope generally, so that's understandable, and we're happy with that. So we can't really go long. We can't really go much short. We can't go left. Can't really go much right. Just want a little bit more forgiveness on a miss here, especially as I'm hitting from an uphill lie, an uphill stance even, and it's above my feet, and we're asking a CC player to control spin, and potentially wind, because you've said it in the notes that it can do everything up to very high. And like, sometimes we'll get it right. I just would like a little more forgiveness there with that like, how you've done the green complex, I think you can build in a bit more forgiveness. There aren't any helping slopes on that green. Everything is hurting us, whether it be in front of the green with that raised entrance, or the slopes taking us off, or the hard back to front slope. None of that's really helping. Hard back to front slope can help if you're hitting a long club in, but at 564, we're not always going for it in 2, and you'd want to, and that's going to require more than just the green sloping. Okay, so now we've got one going front to back generally. Just looking at the beads again, there's a few things that don't really make sense. Like we've lowered this area. You're not going to put a pin there. So that contour is helping nobody. It's just leading to balls ending up here. And it's really just defending against a pin that I assume is here. And if it is here, we can't miss short. We can't miss left. Even a tiny bit left funnels us into here. We can't miss right. We can't miss long. So where's our forgiveness again? This pin, can roll it down short, but if I'm hitting a 9-iron, that's less likely. So there's a little bit of forgiveness short and middle. This one's a good, I would say, is a decent pin. I think, again, though, you've got the spine where it's going directly into a runoff at the back, and then you're chipping over it and it's immediately running away from you. I think we're protecting a little heavily here. And I hate to, I know this will feel like I'm lumping two courses from similar into a similar boat, but kind of similar to Grindavik in that there's no slopes really that I think are helping me, and we're putting an awful lot in the way of potential different avenues to get to the pin. I was going to say I need to mention some positives. I thought the sorry, it seems like I'm reaching. I hold the putt without even thinking before coming off that green. Things that I did like. I like the green side an awful lot. I think the waist bunkering looks really good here. I don't think you need to sculpt the waist bunkers down as much. Like they don't need to be these exposed dunes. They can be kind of flat. The reason the sand works on Pinehurst, if you listen to Tom Doak talking about it, is a lot of those exposed waisty areas, they work because they are so flat, because they're not sculpted, they're not down, and that's why his course won't actually have a lot of these. Now, not going to mark you down on that because you don't know that fact. Like this is absolutely fine. We're in virtual golf, but you don't need to lower them as much. And generally, I think you'd get better from a flatter look here. It kind of looks, it's very deep ravine, and I don't think it's necessarily adding a huge amount because it just means that you've got this really high rise from here all the way to here, and you could use breaking that up visually a little bit more. I do like the green sites. Top of a little mound, you get a lot of views to different things around from here, and I really like this planting. This was the bit I was kind of saw, like the mix of grasses you've got is nice, and it's I think actually just one grass here, but then you've got little bits here. You've chosen them well. They render nicely. Yeah, we like that. Okay, now on a par 4 to greens are going to be our thing. So here, it's nothing other than the perfect shot that's going to work for this one. You can kind of see why it got put on as a plat qualifier. So if I miss this, where can I miss this pin? Here, in which case it's going to roll over. Because if you look at the angle I can generate, even if I play close to these bunkers, I'm still not coming in at a perfect angle. This is an angle I can never really reach. If I bail out here and play to the fat of the fairway away from the bunkers, which people are going to do, and let's note that the land takes us this way, that's my angle in. I've got to hit a wedge, stop it on a dime. If I'm short, I'm in bunkers. If I'm long, I'm putting up and then down again. It's a really tucked pin position on a green where you didn't need to do it, and it's already a boomerang, and it's got hazards both sides. There's no way of using the fairway short anyway, because there's a false front. Like, there's a lot of the courses that I'm finding in that. I've mentioned Grindavik. I've mentioned what's the other one about greens? Oh, I can't remember. The other one I'm kind of finding reminiscent of with this is Crashing Steam. Like, there's similarities in terms of we're just preventing a few shots that we don't need to, and actually just by softening and letting the greens be simple, we don't need to do this kind of crazy compartmentalizing that we did in 21. Like, just simple is all you need. Because this would, like, imagine this green was flat. you've given me enough to worry about. Chucking a spine directly behind the pin just makes it just really kind of penal, and it's not like you're hitting the perfect shot and you're within 1 feet, and that's rewarded. Great. If I'm 7 feet, I've not got a putt at it, and like that's not much fun. You want to give people that when they get on the green, they've got a chance. I don't know if that's the right club, maybe. And the other aspect is if I'm inside a foot, I'm making that putt regardless. If we're chucking that spine this close behind a pin, and if you're finding you're having to work really hard to craft a pin position, you probably need to rethink where you're putting that pin. And even if I do get to 15 feet, maybe I was a bit ambitious myself. Even if I do get here, I have to play a lot of break. You'll also notice above the pin is dead flat, below the pin's doing this. If you've got multiple hard slopes going in different directions when you're playing a putt, and here it's going down, you're doing too much. Everything else I'm really enjoying. I thought the tee shot was good. I thought you just soften out the angle, soften out the green. Like, yes, we can still make bogey, but it's CC is about how do we help people make the birdie. How do we help the people make the birdie when they're not hitting the perfect shot? Short par 4, very uphill. Don't know if I love all of the just painted heavy rough texture here. So on a course that's kind of got waste bunkers, if you then go heavy rough and then these bunkers, these suddenly look very man-made in a way that and the ragged shapes therefore look odd in a way that if you tied them in with the environment, and like brought your waste bunkers in here, because heavy rough bunker is not a huge amount of difference really. Like if you brought those in here and tied them together, this would feel a lot more cohesive. Rather than you got some waste bunkers which are essentially just framing the hole that you've got. Now, drivable par 4. Key question is what's preventing us from going for it? Well, we don't really want to miss left. But again, I don't think with this one we can miss anywhere. I'm sure there is a possibility of stopping a ball here. I'm equally sure that a CC player 9 times out of 10 will not stop the ball anywhere near here. So then becomes what's our layup? I think if I'm going drivable par 4, my usual is how can we make a 3-wood layup really encouraging? You don't need this bunker. It was fairway around here. Let people have a pitch to a green that's going downhill and away from them. That's fine. But you've kind of taken away that shot by doing this. We're also going uphill, so people are having to calculate elevation, so we can drop down one more club. And then we've got the mound in play. And we've got this force front. And we've got this long. And the front of the green also flows the opposite direction. Kind of similar stuff to the last few holes, where I really do think it's kind of similar to Grindavik in that we're kind of just getting in our own way a little bit on the greens. We'll hit driver just because I'm interested to see what. Okay, so we've missed. We're in a bunker. This bunker I'm less worried about. I think this one makes sense where it is. So now I've got a. Oh, it's slightly uphill, but it might be downhill. This is a good punishment for missing a drive. I'm completely okay with this and the green. I would just lose this bunker, add more bailout room, maybe simplify part of the green because you can never really get an angle to that pin. I guess if you lay way back, but how many people are really doing it? I don't know. I think we're doing a lot of the stuff that we had to do on the old game where you're doing all of the angle stuff and then hard sloping the green and doing this and doing this. And like we got away with bits of that in TGC 21. Sorry, not TGC. PGA 21. Because the swing and the physics weren't there. Now that those are much better, it's just really punitive, particularly at CC level. So yeah, conceptually, I think the hole is fine. I think it just needs a bit more forgiveness out there. Tie the bunkers in a little bit better. The bunkers here just feel, if I'm honest, it feels like they're suffering a little bit of an identity crisis. They don't really know whether they're trying to be ragged They're not really tied into the fairway, so you're not working the fairway around them, which would help make them feel more like cohesive. It feels like you put the fairway down and just chuck the bunkers around them, and that will always lead to them feeling a little bit divorced from playing surfaces. And that hasn't been a thing on the first few holes. It just feels different on this one. It's still really enjoyable so far. This is a nice sightline. I really like how you've kept everything nice and open here. We've had a slightly more claustrophobic last couple of holes. I really like the space you've afforded here, and that's potentially partly due to the lighting, would be my guess. But I think this looks good. It gives a big vista. Still think I would lose the heavy rough a little bit more. We're just gonna look at the pin. I'm just gonna have a think for a second because I'm hoping at this stage you're seeing what's going on. So we look at the club that we've got. We've got a 5-iron. You're asking me to land a 5-iron and potentially roll it up to here, but don't roll it too far because you might end up in this little pit that's here for no reason. But if you're going for a back pin, don't roll it too short because you might end up in this same little pocket for no reason. And don't be too short because then you're putting up a tier. And if you're going for this pin, don't go too far right because you're ending up in this little pocket. And if you're going too far left, you're ending up off the green. Like, the green needs simplification. Every time you're putting down a green, what's the core idea of this? Keep it simple. Go with that. Greens in this game need to be so much more simple than they were ever in the previous game. Have we ended up in the pocket? We sort of did. So, for those people who aren't sure, this is it's not quite, but it's pretty close to what I call a crowned pin. It's on this little high tier. If you are going to do this and put a middle tier where everything breaks away, that should be really the sole feature on the green, and it's a main one that's kind of crafted around that. Because the risk is if we go past the pin, we end up rolling back down the hill, and then we go back and forth and back and forth. And as I've said on other playthroughs with CC, we run the risk of complete beginners doing that for all eternity because it's their first rounds on the tours. Okay, lots more space here. This one feels a little bit more empty due to the heavy rough stuff over here, I think. And you put a tee box here, which is a smart move to try to justify some of that. I still think this one just feels a little emptier because even just splashing some sand and little bits of grasses would do wonders for you. Kind of as with the first hole, it would be really nice to show that sand off. You've done an awful lot of good planting work. We just aren't necessarily always seeing it. Same comments with bunkers, and this way of defending the tee shot feels different and a little awkward. Because we go to having all the fairway width in the world here to choking down massively a driver. A good narrows hole gets gradually narrower, generally. Not always. But then you've got to bear in mind that some of the McRainer holes are not even trying to be subtle. Okay, so we hit into the bunker. Even if I had made it, there's no way to get to the pin, which makes it 2 par 5s so far. Which was the short par 5? 15th. But we've kind of taken away the approach on this par 5 as well, and it's a shame. It is a shame because in my world, the par 5 approaches are some of the most exhilarating that you can craft because there's genuine risk and the understanding that a player can't always go for it. Oh, you've gone for a high middle tier again. Just be wary. That's 2 greens in a row. And the hourglass shape, I'm not sure really works for me. I like that you've gone with a dogleg par 5. I like that it's downhill. Just not sure either shot has quite nailed it. I think for me, this is the weakest hole so far. There's still lots of stuff to like, but playing wise, I think it's the first one where both shots have kind of missed a little bit. It's a bit of a And you can use these slopes to feed to other pins, which are like you thought about it. I think we're overthinking it a little bit. Because even if you make it to this little mid tier, look how much is going on. And the chucking of bunkers here just takes away. I can't ever land a 3-wood on here and not roll off the back. Or on here and roll it down to here. We're just kind of artificially taking away those shots. Touch. That said, we're 3 under through 7. I'm enjoying my round. I'm trying to give you absolutely everything. I know that you signed up for the good to great stuff. You will want all the feedback I can give you. Okay, another one of these kind of switchback holes. We can play up to here and we keep the angle. I would slightly worry if someone's hitting the extremity of this fairway and taking on as much of this bunker as possible. Don't let them run out of fairway here. Like, let's make that fairway all the way down this side. Because I'm just going to hedge my bets a little. Yeah, good thing I did. Okay, so we got to the flatter portion. Yeah, the green sculpting feels a little penal in that on a long par 4 as well, if I were coming in from this angle, everything's working away from me. And I can't really... I guess I can land the ball short on this one, which I appreciate. You've kind of flattened the land here. The sculpting is a little heavy-handed. I think you've just raised the green 2 feet or so, where this green actually and it just looks really high above the bunker, because you've got this run up, and then it goes high, and then it goes low again. I think what I would be doing with this one, like a long par 4, you can't really be propping it up at all. Just drop it to ground level, keep it at the same height as about here, however high that is. Keep this the same height, so it's like 0 feet to 0 feet, and just make it all really flat rather than kind of tearing it, because this is a big slope on any green, let alone a... So I can't miss left, can't miss short, can't miss right. I can miss a little bit long, but if I miss much long, I'm screwed. So there's not a ton of forgiveness here either. And whilst I love the concept of you can't go left, but you get more reward because this is diagonal, like there's a really good concept here. It's just not really applicable to a 190 odd yard shot, which we've got potentially more, potentially from a worse angle. It's always just about that bit of balance, because we're going to miss left. Missing left, maybe not the worst. Definitely not the worst in the world. I feel you're so close with so many of these. I think your main message should just be simplify, particularly around the greens. Keep it super simple. Like this tee shot a lot. Might like a little bit more room to run it out long. And I think nobody's ever really laying back here. It's 450. I understand why you're giving us this bit of fairway, but I don't see anyone voluntarily leaving a 220-yard approach compared to potentially having a wedge in. No angle. And the angle benefit's relatively marginal. Nobody's doing that. You kind of need to shift this further up. If it's 160 versus 130, then maybe we'll talk about it. As is, we're going to hit partial driver somewhere down there. I like the... Oh, I've gone too far. And I like the run out because it makes me think about where I want to land the ball. Oh, maybe we have happy days. And also, the further I run out, the more I'm losing this angle. I think there's a really cool concept here. Just think the hole is a little bit too long to do it. Same comments with the bunkers and the bunker shapes. They feel divorced from the holes, and like you could be doing, given it's Pinehurst and there's fairway everywhere. Let's expand the fairway. Let's give people fairway here, wrap it round, fairway here, fairway all the way down here. Like, people could use that and it would be playable, and you could think about banking it. Like, if I ran up this slope, it might then run down and onto the green. That would be cool. We'd like that on a CC course. Planting through there looks really nice. The lighting definitely helps it pop. It's a shame that there's nothing you can do about the lighting on the bushes. And kind of the remove heavy rough tool looks very rocky, which feels a bit at odds with the sandy soil. I'm really nitpicking there. And Boreal, there's not much you can do about it. Come on, wind. It's doing its best. So that's an interesting one to look at as well. I was interested to see how the ball reacts off this, because this is like the first helping slope we've had. Look at how little it's come in. And also look at the part I've left myself as a result. We're really hard off that side slope. I think you need to really try hard to work in those helping slopes. We've talked about putts breaking in weird directions. You've got another little pocket here. You see this front pin. If you go slightly long, you're down there. That common theme of overprotecting par a little. I realise at this point I've gone 30 minutes and I'm not through the front nine. I've had a lot to say on this one. And that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that there's lots of stuff I feel I can point out. Okay. Again, I see the width and the angle. I don't know how many people are voluntarily leaving 190 in compared to hitting. I mean, I guess this one narrows more. So if you're going to ask people to potentially leave 190 in, you can't prop the green up like that. So that's a common theme. We've also got that back tier breaking in two directions again. Same stuff. Yeah, we can definitely speed up on the back nine. Also, this pin, if we were laying up, this is tough. I feel like I have to go for it. I like the gentle little dog leg, though, and the fact that I can... That's a fun tee shot. Just think where you're providing width is often just a bit too far back. Because I need a wedge to come into this pin. I've got a pitch shot. How wonderful. There it is. You can see it's still moving, and that's a pitch shot landing. Tough. Yeah. I think you'd have... Well... I mean, supposedly yellow is illegal in the 9 box. Like, we've got yellow here. I mean, you can quibble as to whether that's yellow. That's same colour. I'd say this is yellow. You definitely have Rangers querying this one, certainly for CC. I don't mind it, personally. Like, it's a consistent slope, and for me, that's... As long as you're providing a way around it. But it does mean that for that layup and then 5-iron approach, that's way too severe for... If you're doing that, you've got to... Okay. So par 5, we're just playing in front of the bunkers we can't do anything with. Yeah, par 5 greens, we're doing way too much defensive stuff because we're coming in at this angle. I can't carry these bunkers because it's uphill. I don't think anyone can. Unless you're downwind, in which case you get some angle. We'll find out how this goes. Okay, so we've gone for that. Even if I swing a hard fade into this, we're probably not holding it. We'll give it a go. But same sort of thing with CC, like I think we're asking too much. I feel like this is a bit of an attempt at a core Crenshaw template. Potentially. Again, the angles are really severe. Even if I hold this area, it's quite hard. They're tough to get right. They really are. I'm definitely not saying I've always managed it. Well, we'll give it a go. Could be worse. Yeah, kind of as expected. I think you've got to allow for people not to get that huge leftward kick. And if I did lay up, everything's working really hard. It's just always allowing a shot like that. And for CC, it's a shot that isn't requiring absolute perfection. Oh, there we go. Planting down there and the big view looks awesome. Really like this. And I've done, this is a good change of pace hole as well. Really open, big vista. Love the views to here. The two par threes where you've opened things out have looked really lovely. And just enough little framing planting here. I don't think you need the pin to be this close to this slope. There's enough depth long and left. We're asking people to do elevation, deal with elevation. Oh, and we need to charge the controller. Always a fun interlude. Okay, so it won't affect my play at all. Any swings are entirely of my own making. Okay, well this will be interesting, how the green plays from... Ah, no, we've gone off. That's a shame. That would have been a fun putt. I'm just not sure if enough people have grasped how serious these sorts of slopes can be, because they look so benign with what we're used to. But those are really hard to deal with. And we'll keep the ball moving. I might drop a shot. I might hole a putt. No. Hit a full attempt. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where your other pins are on here. I think with the elevation change you're going for on this hole, you don't need to tuck pins. Like, I also, you've got to be so careful with mounds where one side or the other, they've got to be handled with real care, and you've got to put the pin a little bit further away than that. So this pin I'd probably be putting here. I'd probably put one here, one front, but I'd also soften some of the slopes a little as well. I like that as a in your par 3 collection. That fits nicely. Okay, a bit more of a dog leg. How long are we? Yeah, we're just... It's the same thing. There's so much this course does really nicely. And then there's often, like, this tee shot is perfect without this bunker. With this bunker, it's really penal because you have to take this option on. And if you don't have that option, you're not playing here, you're playing out to here. And playing on that line, you're going over the bunkers and you're going to a green that will bounce a short ball on, and potentially it's going to be hard to control. I do like that the bunkers are pulled further away from the green. That works nicely. Just every time we're chucking a centerline bunker, and I know I have history with this, believe me, we've got to think really, really carefully about whether it's really improving things or if it's just making it more advantage to the person who can cut the inside. Because even now I've got 7 iron in. Hard slope. This hole is... I'd say the course is a bit too difficult for CC. It's more kinetic, potentially elite. I'm not totally surprised it was used on plat, or as a plat qualifier. Because whilst you can sometimes play for the heart of the green, you can't always. This one, you can, but you might end up the wrong side of this slope, and then you've got a horrible putt. The centre of the green is not necessarily safe here. But I do like the change of pace in that you've allowed far more fairway around the green. Like, these bunkers are pulled away from the green. Like, let's see more of that. That's nice. Big kick, right? Feeling like I'm doing very well to be 6 under. Admittedly, we've had 2 very fluky chip ins and 1 very fluky putt on the first. Okay, downhill. I guess you can potentially carry that. Trying to work out. And I think just a fraction close to these slopes again. Like, it's not far off. Either you lose these little yellow slopes or you pull the pin into about there, I think. And that's not totally just a CC thing, that's like a general green design thing. I think playing down to here is the play, and we'll take the uphill. The cool thing with the elevation change is I can choose to lay back here and I get a longer approach, but it's from a slightly flatter lie, or I can play down here and I've got more of an uphill shot over here. I think visually this hole could probably tie together a little bit better. It's the use of the heavy rough, I think, that is causing some issues. But I like the strategy element of this. This is a cool hole. When it comes to the end of hole, I won't remember different numbers of holes for this one, I don't think. But that doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying them. Probably would look at the sculpting that front bunker just to show it a bit more from that bottom fairway. This is partly why I'd have pulled that pin away a touch more. It means you don't have to. This second part again is also tough. Yeah, just about. Hey, 15. This was your short par 5. How have we defended? We've given a very wide tee shot. And this bunker feels a little lonely, and I know he's got a friend, but like with all of this fairway, you want to be tucking it right around fairway. And we can reach and roll it on. We've gone for a Redan sort of concept. That bunker's more in play from, I think, it's good middle, right? Hazard placement's pretty solid. We protect the high side, which gets you a little bit more of an angle to work in from this side. I'll probably angle your green a little bit more. Also, it was a little bit odd that the Redan has or the Redan, for lack of a better term, Redan green. It's not really, but like that's the concept we're using. It's narrower on the entry point than it is on the end point. I guess that's to allow you to carry it and stop it, but I think you want wider at the start to get the ball rolling. Okay, I do only have a 9-iron in after that, which is nice. Downwind, yeah, probably about there. A little slow might work in my favour. Just reach the green. Because I would love to see if this works. Excellent. No! Oh, it's nice to know we can stop it there. Yeah, I like that. For a short par 5, this, I guess, does allow us how we can stop it. You're never using this slope to get the ball to the green, the pin. There's just no way of getting the ball to work at it this way. I think it provides options as to how you get to the front pin. You get a bit more of how you get to that pin. You can run it through, or you can just try and take it all the way. That's nice. It's a good little change up. Oh, thought for a minute I had it. Okay, 315. This is definitely going to be the longest playthrough. Really good setting for this par 3. This one really fits nicely with surroundings. Like you've got hill high here, low here. Makes sense. Until I then see that the green is flowing this way. There's bits of this that don't make sense. Go with what you had. And for the most part, it does. It's the bits that fight it that feel awkward. Because it then means that I have to carry this shoulder, which is a little awkward, and not go too far this way. And we're back into really penal. And I've just noticed it's 200 yards uphill. My landing area is here. Do my best. Okay, so we're a little bit too far left. What are we faced with? Yeah. Not a very friendly part. Okay. It's just I come back to the greens. It's just like the how do we allow people a decent look at, like a potential look at birdie, even when they haven't quite nailed it. The tee shot. Okay, long par four. I remember this one. I really like the green complex. I think we choked down a little. Like we've choked down the fairway as a defense a couple once too many times. I think for my liking. And we get a kick into a bunker. Okay, that's fine. Because I know that the green complex is kind of forgiving. And I can bounce it in a little bit more from this side, I hope. I'll put it somewhere up there and see what happens, right? What happens is we get a horrible slow and we... Yeah. This bunker's a little crater-like, and I think I'd tuck it a bit more in so you've got maybe a little more chance to use that slope, but I was out of position, so it's really hard to tell. I do like this green. I think it's more simple and like that's the thing. It's more simplistic. It knows what it's trying to be, whereas a lot of the others that I've liked less, I've just felt like they didn't really have one core underlying concept. Oh, we've got a whole sign. Thank you, Andre. Yeah. And again, around this green site, I like that you've given it space. Like the pines work, the planting looks really nice. We like that. 18, bring us home. It's a tight pin location. Only 411 though, so but we're kind of pinching driver a bit anyway, which is probably okay, but we're pinching driver a lot between two bunkers and the fairway suddenly shrinks. We did this on 17, we've done it on I want to say 4 other holes or so. Around about that. Okay. Heavy rough because there's and then I mean I've got the angle as best I can, I guess. But the same it's nice to finish on a recurrent theme, I guess. You got a little spine here, which is making my distance control have to be absolutely perfect, and my dispersion control laterally has to be absolutely perfect. Again, think asking a little too much, and it's the same on other pins. Like, keep it simple. Where's the easiness? I'm out of the heavy rough, so my green entrance is narrow. I'm doing well just to hit the green from here, which we won't do. There we go. Slow bounce up. Okay. Mm. Ridiculous ball physics. I mean, putting a shed load of spin on a flop shot. Now the green site again, I really like. I think where you've built them into the natural area and done this planting and managed to, it's kind of hard to control the boreal texture, but where you've got it to go brown, it looks wonderful. Rather than the grey, rocky texture, I think it looks less good, but that's so hard to control. I'm dropping another hole, another shot even. There we go. Oh, maybe at 48 minutes or so. Not bad. We picked up the pace a little bit. So yeah, like kind of as I've said with all of your courses that I've played through, there's stuff I really like, and stuff where I just feel you're so close, and it just needs simplification when it comes to the greens and really thinking about what shot am I requiring or asking for people to hit. And the crucial one on this one is if they're laying up, what shot might they hit in, and how am I making that easier? Because I think you think about the shot that is from position A1 in the fairway a lot, and you protect against that and make that challenging. What I don't think you maybe do enough is think about, well, if people miss the tee shot, where are they playing from? I think one of the best things you could do would be to play test from the bunkers the whole time on your course, or play test from option B, and just go, you know what, is it possible to get within 20 feet relatively regularly? Or is it possible to land it close to the pin? Or on some of these, how possible is it to hold the green? And the same's kind of true with your par threes. Like some of them that were really long, you're tucking the pins as much as I would want you doing on a short wedge shot. I want to think 6 in particular. But environment work, I really liked it. I think there's a lot of holes there that I will remember and I enjoyed, and I think there's more than a number of other courses in and around where I'd have yours in the ranking. I probably have yours around the top 10. It's on that bubble as to whether it's making top 10 or slightly. I think it probably is for me, but I can see it being around that bubble. And the reason it might miss would be difficulty, and like the tee shot strategy being a bit forced at times. But where it's not losing out on is hole ideas, because you have the ideas, you just need to refine them so that they play as well as you really want them to, and they're as forgiving as they need to be. So what holes do I remember? 1, I remember the big opening tee shot. 2, I remember it was the uphill approach shot to the kind of crowned domed green. 3 was the hard back to front green. That was it. 3 was the uphill, but then front to back green, which again sounds like it. 4 was the one with the little spine right by the pin. 5, I think. I don't know if I totally remember 5. I think it was a sweeping. No, that was 4. They kind of blend together a little bit, and that's partly because the environment stays the same, and it's hard. Therefore, in one course which is more of an environment rather than individuals planting spots, it's hard to make those individual holes stand out. 6, I remember, is the par 3 with the like round middle bit. 7 was the hourglass shaped green that I didn't really think fitted so well. I don't remember 8 off the top of my head. What was the distance? Long par 4. Yeah, not off the top of my head. 9, I do remember, was the little, I want to say a little dog leg coming back up. 10, not sure. 11, I chipped in flukily from. Not sure I recall 12. The back nine's more of a blur, but I was partly playing it quicker and therefore paying less attention. I definitely remember the downhill, I want to say 14th, from that sort of split fairway. I really liked that. 13's that, I'm not surprised 13's playing stroke index 1. That's that tight dog leg with the centerline bunker that I didn't love. 15's a short par 5. I'll remember that Redan approach. That was fun. And 17 and 18 I do recall as just being off, and I mucked them up. Oh, and the 12th is that downhill and a big view par 3. So as you can see, lots I remember. Hopefully that gives you enough to take away and kind of keep working on it. You are definitely getting there. It's always, for me, just about simplicity of idea, and like the whole designs, you have the ideas. Don't be afraid to make simple work really, really well, and that will carry you so far. But I enjoyed that, and best of luck in the contest. Catch you again soon.